afternoon, Cubs fans, and welcome back to another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan. We'll break down the game last night. There were a few reports that came out yesterday about Mr. Kyle Tucker, who's been on an absolute tear for the Cubs, and then we'll give you guys a preview into the games later tonight and tomorrow. But before we get into all that, shout out to you guys for liking the videos, subscribing to the channel, and your overall positive support here on Cubs Daily. We're going to continue grinding out these videos for you guys during Cubs season, so make sure you guys are locked on in. Subscribe to the channel, make sure you like the videos, and of course, comment down below. What do you think the difference in last night's game was? I mean, in my humble opinion, it was one swing, and that's how we're going to transition into it. The Cubs fall 3-0 to the Dodgers yesterday. A very well-pitched game from Matthew Boyd. I know he does let a few runners on here and there, but again, the Cubs, just when you're playing a team like the Dodgers who are just so loaded from top to bottom, you've got to be crisp. I mean, I don't even think the Cubs had enough opportunities to potentially score 3 runs, but when Kyle Tucker gets on second base with one out and, say a singles to right, you can't get caught there. You can't get caught between first and second. I don't know if I thought maybe he was going to be able to hold up long enough for Kyle Tucker to come home and score, but either way, we need you to stay on base there. Even if they ground into the double play, you gotta be on base because you never know what Michael Busch is gonna do. With one glorious swing, Michael Busch could have made it a 3-0 game Cubs way, and you never know how the game turns out from there. But Matthew Boyd did his job. The bullpen did their absolute best. I think the philosophy with the Cubs offense of remaining patient at the plate. Yeah, they took some strike threes, but they made Yamamoto throw 100 pitches by the 5th inning. And that's a good general strategy, I would say, going forward for the Cubs. So hopefully they can do the same thing to Roki Sasaki tonight. We'll get into that game in a little bit. But yeah, one swing of the bat, ladies and gentlemen. Cubs lose 3-0. Kind of goes like that. The Dodgers are a very tough team. I think the Cubs are going to have to do some additional work at the trade deadline and this offseason to get up to the Dodgers level. Again, the Dodgers pay for the high quality of player. When Kike Hernandez and Teoscar Hernandez are like your 6th or 7th guy, Will Smith is the 8th guy, you are a great ball club. I mean, the Cubs are going to face Sasaki today, and then they're going to face Glasnow tomorrow. Glasnow's like their 3rd or 4th starter. Just absolutely wild. Again, the Dodgers pay for that to that level of high quality. I think the Cubs could afford that. I don't think they want to afford that. You know what I'm saying? They're not going for the World Series. They genuinely believe that the playoffs are a quote-unquote crapshoot, and all that they have to do is get there, and you never know what's going to happen. I mean, to be fair to the Cubs, the history has dictated that, right? The Diamondbacks were a 6th seed. They got to the World Series. The Phillies were a 6th seed. They got to the World Series. But then again, they all fell short of the ultimate goal, and that's winning a title, right? I want to be in contention every year as a Cub fan, but that's just, the way it looks this year, it simply is not going to match up that way. But this is a very promising loss, as I'd like to say. 3-0 on one swing. Hey, you can't make mistakes against the Dodgers. That's how they're going to beat you. But October and April are going to be completely different months, I'd say. So hopefully the Cubs can just buckle down, get a win here, somehow maybe win this series, and we're off to San Diego. But let's talk about these reports we've been seeing with our main man, Kyle Tucker, again, who's been on an absolute tear for the Cubs so far. Every single Cub fan wants to extend him. Yes, I know. But it's going to take some time. You can't blame Kyle Tucker for wanting to actually enter free agency, to be swooned, to be courted by all the other teams, right? Hopefully, over the course of this summer, he falls in love with the city of Chicago. He wants to make this place his home for the next 8 to 10 years. And then that's when the Cubs are going to strike. But fun tidbits of notes. Our main man, Mike Rodriguez, said according to his sources, the Cubs and Kyle Tucker are already discussing a possible contract extension. Let's see what happens with that. The Cubs in Chicago, again, it's not uncommon for teams to work with other teams' representation throughout the season. The Cubs have a great relationship with XL where Kyle Tucker's represented. So hopefully they are ironing out the details on that one. But I think literally this was 8:42 on April 10th. And then at 8:55 a.m. on April 11th, shortly the next day, Jesse Rogers on ESPN 1000 says the Cubs and Kyle Tucker are not yet talking about an extension. They're likely to go to him at some point after giving him time to fall in love with Chicago. Doesn't mean they'll sign him. Yes, obviously, Jesse, does not mean they'll sign him. But, again, takes time. These things take time. I was watching, I think it was a Buster Only. He had Jeff Passan on his podcast. And, he asked him, he's like, hey, who is going to be the number one contender for Kyle Tucker? Where do you think he's going to sign? And Jeff Passan, he gave hope to us Cub fans. He said, hey, I think maybe the pressure is going to get to Tom Ricketts. The owners don't want to be perceived in this negative light as cheap, and maybe the pressure will get to him. I think, honestly, Tom Ricketts and company have been waiting for the perfect prototype superstar to come through. Obviously, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, those guys were great players for us when we needed them to be, but they didn't pan out or deserve that 8 to 10 year extension, right? Kyle Tucker is one of those guys. He's a top 5 outfielder in baseball. He's a top 5 hitter in baseball. Those guys don't grow on trees. There's only 5 of them. And again, you lost out on Shohei. You lost out on Soto. I don't even think we were ever really in the running for Judge. But those are the top 3 hitters, so you might as well go get Kyle Tucker. Pay him his money. If he wants $500 million, give him the $500 million. It's not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. But, again, conflicting reports. We don't know what's true. We're just going to wake up to a Jeff Passan tweet one day, and Kyle Tucker will have either signed with another team or the Cubs will have extended him. Either way, it's fun to think about, talk about. I know the history of the Cubs, ladies and gentlemen, but again, just remain positive. I think Kyle Tucker is different. I'm going to lean on that front. I think all the other guys that, the Cubs have perceived as, not really attainable, Kyle Tucker's on the team now. If this team does well, if he continues to do well, he enjoys being Wrigley, his family enjoys it, I don't think there's going to be a problem with him signing an 8 to 10 year deal worth $500 million personally. So, let's talk about Game 2 tonight. We're going to have Ben Brown versus Roki Sasaki at 8:10 Central. Ben Brown, the ERA is high. It was a very rough outing last game, but hey, maybe he's up for the bright lights in LA against Roki Sasaki, who has, in the beginning of his career, looked human. He is hittable. You got to be patient with him, and the Cubs might be able to manufacture some runs in this one. But it's all about Ben Brown. How is he going to look tonight? Will he have his control, etc., etc.? Very rough outing last week, but I'm personally not too worried about it. The Cubs do have some players that are going to go through some growing pains, a la Ben Brown, Pete Crow Armstrong, Matt Shaw. They might get off to slow starts, but they're professional players. They are going to get right. I am fully confident in that, ladies and gentlemen. So just bear patience with it. Our team in April is going to look different in May, June, July, and so on and so forth. So can't really overreact to a lot of results right now. Just have to stay the course and stick to the process. Keep grinding, and the Cubs will be there when the time is right. No doubt about it. But I'm not going to sit here and say it's a favorable matchup for the Cubs tonight. It's a winnable matchup, though, especially the way they played yesterday. I think the Cubs can come in here and snag a victory. You got to attack Roki Sasaki. His ERA is above 4. Ben Brown's is above 6. But you never know how they're going to come out tonight. They both have electric stuff. They both have bend-breaking stuff. You just got to be patient. Make them throw pitches. Draw the walks, etc., etc. Again, when you're making the pitcher throw pitches, you're going to strike out sometimes. You're going to go striking out looking, the whole 9. But over the course of time, the results will wear on for you in the positive light. You will draw more walks, etc., than you will strike out. You'll get more favorable pitches to hit in that matchup. So hopefully the Cubs, after being able to see Roki the first time, have some video footage to lean on and can attack him differently in today's game. Now, I'm going to preview you guys Game 3 because we don't post on Sundays usually. But the Cubs have not determined their 5th starter. We are going to be facing Tyler Glasnow, who is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, the Dodgers invest in their team. They want a high-quality competitive team, and they are going to be just that. I'm not quite sure who the Cubs are going to use here. It could be one of 2 options, okay? Either Colin Ray is going to go today, depending on how the game goes tonight. If Ben Brown can't get out of the second inning, the Cubs might need to use Colin Ray to extend the bullpen, eat a few innings, etc., etc. That opens the door for Jordan Wicks to come up and start in Game 3 for the Cubs on Sunday. Because they start at 6:10, right? Plenty of time all day for Jordan Wicks to get there to LA, just in case. But if Ben Brown gives us 5 or 6 innings, solid pitching ball, then I think Colin Ray is going to get the start on Sunday. And hopefully, here's how I see it. If Colin Ray's starting, I think the Cubs are tied 1-1 in the series. If Jordan Wicks is starting, I think the Cubs have lost 2 of 3 in the series. And hopefully they can salvage a victory in Game 3. So that's how I would kind of see it tonight. It's all about tonight's result and how Ben Brown pitches. Hopefully he can give us 5-6 innings of, 1 to 2 run ball. Again, you can't bank on keeping the Dodgers off the board, but the Cubs have to minimize their mistakes and play good, high-quality, clean baseball. Yep, if the home runs are happening, great, but the home runs don't always happen. The Cubs are not exactly laden with power, I would say, but again, maybe Kyle Tucker gets on a heater, etc. Seiya finds the range, etc. But again, remain patient, keep quality approaches at the plate. The results will be there in the end, no doubt about it. So that's going to do it for me today, ladies and gentlemen, on Cubs Daily. Again, I'll be back Monday with another video. We'll discuss the results of the games then. See ya.